For years, I thought the pain in my hands was something I would have to live with forever. I got used to the stiffness when waking up, to that uncomfortable tingling in my fingers, to not being able to open a jar without asking for help, to stopping writing letters because the pencil felt like it weighed a ton, and to avoiding small pleasures, like knitting or playing the piano, because every movement hurt more than it was worth. I am 85 years old, and I know what it feels like to look at your hands and not recognize them. They were no longer the hands I raised my children with, the ones I cooked, worked, and hugged with. They had become strange, tense, fragile. They told me it was part of aging, that it was normal, that arthritis, inflammation, and pain come with age. And for a long time I accepted it. I took painkillers, I wore special gloves, I tried creams, but nothing seemed to give me real relief. Just brief moments of calm, followed by hours of discomfort. But everything changed when I started using this homemade oil. It wasn't overnight, it wasn't magic, but after a few weeks, I noticed my hands no longer complained at dawn, that I could turn a key without pausing, that I could enjoy simple things again without that constant weight of pain. Today, I want to tell you exactly how I got here. In this video, I will share my full story, how I discovered this oil, how I prepare it, which natural ingredients I use, and above all, how I apply it to get the maximum benefit. And I will also speak honestly, because this is not a miracle cure. It doesn't heal everything. It doesn't replace your doctor. But for me, it was a light amid many frustrated attempts. Before we start, tell me in the comments, how old are you and where are you watching from? I would love to know who is on the other side listening to this story, because maybe this small change can help you too. There are things a person doesn't appreciate until they lose them. Holding a knife firmly, holding a hot cup without fear of dropping it, buttoning your shirt effortlessly. Simple things, everyday things. But when your hands start hurting every day, they stop being simple. They become obstacles, challenges, and little by little they pull you away from the life you used to have. The pain began as a mild annoyance, a kind of stiffness in the mornings. I thought it was from sleeping poorly or the weather, but over time it became more frequent, deeper, more constant. It was no longer just upon waking. It happened when cutting fruit, when writing my name, when opening a water bottle. It was as if my hands were telling me, not today. I remember one afternoon in particular, I wanted to bake a cake, as I did every year for my granddaughter's birthday. When trying to beat the eggs, the pain in my knuckles was so strong that I had to stop. I sat in the kitchen with my hands on the table and started crying. Not because of the cake, but because I realized something inside me was changing, and I didn't like it. Every time I needed help opening a jar or cutting something with scissors, I felt like I was losing a bit of my independence, of my identity, of my strength. My hands had always been part of what defined me: caretaker, cook, mother, grandmother. But now, they were a constant source of frustration. I went to the doctor. They examined me. They talked about age, arthritis, and the inflammatory processes common in older people. They prescribed painkillers, some strong, some mild, but they all had something in common. They eased the pain for a few hours. Then the discomfort returned, and with it, fatigue, sadness, the feeling of being trapped in a body that no longer wanted to cooperate. I tried ointments, thermal gloves, gentle exercises, even supplements. And although some offered temporary relief, none gave me back my confidence. I became an expert at hiding the pain, pretending everything was fine when I was really tired. Tired of feeling limited, tired of depending on others. One day, talking to a neighbor who also had joint problems, she mentioned she was using natural oils, not to cure herself, but to relieve the pain. She told me it wasn't magic, but she had noticed a real difference. She looked me in the eyes and said, "You have nothing to lose by trying, and maybe you'll gain something you thought was lost." That phrase stuck with me, because at that moment, I did feel like I had lost something, and I decided to do something different. I no longer wanted to just accept the pain. I wanted to look for other ways, kinder ways, more natural, closer to what the body can understand without chemicals or side effects. That's how my search began. Not with high expectations, just with hope to find something that would give me back, even if just a little, the freedom to use my hands without fear. And what I found was much more than that. Sec. How I discovered the oil and why I decided to try it. The first time I heard about this oil was during an unremarkable conversation. I was in the waiting room at the health center, like so many times before, waiting to be called for my monthly checkup. Next to me sat a lady who must have been around 80. She wore a very pretty wool scarf, handmade, and that was what started the conversation. "Did you knit this?" I asked her. She smiled and nodded, as if she had been waiting for someone to ask. I hadn't been able to knit for years, but since I started using my miracle oil, my fingers are mine again. I laughed, thinking it was a nice way to speak, but there was something in her tone, in the calm way she said it, that made me pay attention. I asked her what oil she used. She said it wasn't store-bought, that she made it at home with simple ingredients. She told me about olive oil, rosemary, a pinch of turmeric, and something that surprised me: lemon peels. She explained how she heated it slowly, how she let it rest, how she used it to massage her hands every night before bed. "It doesn't cure old age, dear, but it soothes the wounds time leaves." I went home with that phrase spinning in my head. It wasn't the first time someone had told me about natural remedies, but I confess I had always looked at them with some distance. For me, if it didn't come in a box with a prescription, it couldn't work. I didn't believe something natural could make a difference. But that night, while struggling to turn the door key, I thought of that lady and her knitted scarf. And I told myself something simple: I have nothing to lose. The next day, I opened an old notebook and started writing down what I remembered from what she told me. Then I searched for information on my own. I watched a couple of videos on a health channel for older people, read some articles, and little by little I put the recipe together. It wasn't complicated. The important thing was the quality of the ingredients and consistency in use. I went to the neighborhood store and bought a small bottle of extra virgin olive oil. Then I went to the health food store and got turmeric powder and dried rosemary leaves. I already had the lemon at home. That very afternoon, I carefully peeled the lemon, trying not to include the white bitter part. I put everything in a small saucepan: the oil, rosemary, turmeric, and peels. I heated it on very low heat, without boiling, just enough for the ingredients to release their properties. The aroma that came from that mixture surprised me. It was warm, herbal, slightly citrusy. It reminded me of the infusions my grandmother used to make when we were children. I let it cool, strained it, and stored it in a glass jar with a tight lid. I labeled it with the date, as I had read was recommended, and put it on my nightstand. That night, before going to sleep, I took a small amount of the oil with my fingertips and slowly massaged each of my hands, not hoping to heal, just intending to give myself a moment of calm. But something in that gesture, in that pause, made me feel I was doing something good for myself. And that's how it all began. What the homemade oil contains and how to prepare it. Many have asked me what's in this oil I use, how I prepare it, and if it really is as simple as I say. The truth is, yes. You don't need labs, expensive products, or medical knowledge. You only need patience, care, and some ingredients you probably already have at home. I'm going to tell you exactly how I make it, step by step. There's nothing secret or complicated. And best of all, you can make it yourself, even if you have no experience making home remedies. These are the ingredients I use. 1 cup of extra virgin olive oil. The purer, the better. 2 teaspoons of turmeric powder. 1 dry sprig of rosemary or 1 tablespoon of dried leaves. The peel of half a lemon without the white part. Nothing else. That's simple. How I prepare it. First, I put the olive oil in a small pot. I add the turmeric, rosemary, and lemon peels. I turn on the heat, but very low, almost at minimum. We don't want it to boil, just warm enough for the ingredients to release their properties. I leave it like that for about 15 minutes, stirring occasionally with a wooden spoon. The smell that starts to come out is strong but comforting. It reminds me of the infusions my grandmother used to make, a mix of earth, forest, and old kitchen. When I notice the oil has absorbed the intense yellow color of the turmeric and the aroma of rosemary, I turn off the heat and let it rest for a few minutes. Then I strain the mixture with a fine cloth or sieve. It's important that no solid remains are left. The oil must be clean and smooth. I pour it into a dark glass jar, the kind used for essential oils or homemade perfumes. If you don't have one, you can use a regular jar, but keep it in a place without direct light. How I store it. This oil lasts several weeks if kept tightly closed and in a cool place. I usually keep it on my nightstand because that's where I use it most, just before sleeping. Sometimes I carry a small bottle if I'm going to be away for a few days. How I apply it. Every night, without fail, I take a small amount of oil and slowly massage my hands. I start with the palm, then each finger, one by one, making gentle circles. I also massage my wrists and joints. If I feel pain in a specific spot, I stay there a little longer. You don't need to use a lot. What matters is consistency. The massage helps the oil penetrate better and also activates circulation. Sometimes I use it in the morning too if I feel my hands are especially stiff, but night is the best time because it allows it to work while you sleep. An important note: this oil doesn't replace any medical treatment. If you are under treatment, taking medication, or have a diagnosed illness, always consult your doctor before using natural remedies, no matter how mild they seem. Every person's body is different, and what helped me may not work the same for everyone. One last piece of advice: don't rush. Use the oil patiently as an act of self-care. Don't expect a miracle in 2 days. But if you are consistent and accompany it with good habits, movement, and an open mind, maybe you too can say, like me, my hands don't hurt like before. It didn't happen immediately, not in 1 day, not in 2. But I did notice something important from the first week. The nights were different. Before, I used to wake up with numb hands, swollen fingers, or that annoying feeling that I couldn't close them well. After a few days using the oil, I noticed I slept more peacefully, and when waking up, my hands weren't as stiff. It was a gradual, gentle relief, almost imperceptible at first, but constant. One morning, without thinking too much, I opened the fridge with one hand. Another day, I managed to comb my hair without resting the brush with the other. Those little gestures start giving you clues that something is changing. As the weeks passed, I began to regain mobility. Where before there was pain bending my fingers, now there was slight resistance, but no suffering. I could write a note on paper without stopping every 2 words. I could button my blouse again without frustration. And one afternoon, after a long time, I managed to knit for almost an hour without feeling like I had punished myself for it. The comparison between before and after was clear. Before, I lived in fear of using my hands. After, I started trusting them again. Before, every closed jar was a barrier. After, it was just another lid I knew I could open. But the most surprising thing was what I didn't expect. By relaxing my hands with those nightly massages, my mind also started calming down. I slept better, less tension in my shoulders, less anxiety. I also noticed my wrists and elbows swelled less, especially after repetitive tasks like cleaning or writing. It was as if my whole body understood that daily act of care. Over time, I learned the oil wasn't the only thing helping. My attitude helped too. I began to accompany the oil use with some gentle exercises they taught me in physical therapy. Circular movements, slow stretches, small exercises with a soft ball. 10 minutes a day, no more. I also reduced the consumption of inflammatory foods like fried foods or excessive sweets. I started drinking more water, something that seemed so basic but I had ignored before. And something important, I tried to stay active, even with small tasks inside the house. because I understood that hands need movement as much as rest. Some tips that worked for me, and I want to share with you. Be consistent. Using the oil once a week doesn't help. Make it part of your routine, like brushing your teeth. Don't use a lot. What matters is not covering your hand in oil, but massaging with intention. Find a quiet moment to apply it. I do it before sleeping, but do it whenever works best for you. If you can, combine the oil with gentle exercises. Movement helps results last longer. Listen to your body. If one day you are very tired or feel sharp pain, don't force yourself. Rest is also part of healing. Today, I can't say I am completely free of discomfort, but I can say I'm no longer a slave to the pain. And every time I take the bottle of that oil, I feel I'm doing something for myself, something that gives me calm, control, and hope. It's not just about an oil. It's about not giving up with age. Because aging doesn't mean stopping the search for solutions. It doesn't mean resigning to pain or accepting that everything has to hurt just because you've reached a certain age. What I discovered with this oil was not just physical relief, but a way to feel capable again, useful, present, to recover something that time had slowly taken from me. Every time I massage my hands, I'm not just treating discomfort. I'm telling myself, I still can. I can still take care of myself. I can still learn. I can still change something that bothers me. Sometimes what seems small, like a bottle with oil and plants, can be an act of silent resistance against giving up. Now, I want to be very clear with you. This oil helped me, and I share it hoping it can help you too. But every body is different. Every story is unique. What brings relief to one person may have no effect on another. That's why, if you decide to try it, do so carefully. Watch how your skin, body, and routine react. And if you're taking medications or have specific medical conditions, always talk to your doctor before adding any new treatment, even if it's natural. I also don't want you to think this oil is a magic cure. It's not. The pain doesn't disappear completely or immediately, but it improves, and it improves much more if accompanied by movement, good nutrition, rest, and self-love. Because in the end, taking care of our hands is also taking care of our desire to live. What I learned in this process is that we don't always need big or expensive solutions to feel better. Sometimes what makes the difference is a small action repeated patiently, a homemade oil, a massage before sleeping, a change of attitude, and above all, the firm decision not to give up, even when everything seems to invite you to do so. If you're looking for relief, don't stop. Sometimes the simplest solution is the wisest. And if this video gave you even an idea, a hope, a possibility, then sharing my story was worth it. Now it's your turn. Do you also suffer from hand pain? Have you tried any natural remedy that worked for you? Leave me a comment. I would love to read your experience and know we are not alone on this path. And if you want more tips like this, if you want to hear more real stories, more simple solutions, more ways to feel good in your own way, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who needs it. Thank you for watching.